Hello, everybody. This is Chris trying to do something with Excel, and I will try my best to commentate here. This is not something I'm very good at when I try and both commentate and do things at the same time. So, what I have here is a file that I put together based on Cagematch results for WWE going back. I'm going to mute myself so I can look at the chat here, but I won't get too distracted, hopefully. All right. So what I had done is I'd gone through and took all the results out of Cagematch from April of 2020 all the way through January of 1999. And the reason I did that is that there's a website called Polestar, and Polestar has attendance information you can buy from them. And so if you go to their website and you buy it, it's like $20. You can get like a couple thousand WWE shows, the attendance that was reported in kind of the industry trades. So I was doing a project where I was cross-referencing that data there, something I'd done in the past before, and I refreshed just recently. But that also was helpful to try to get the results of those shows, and I decided to use Cagematch.net as my source for that, which is a very good source. It's always fascinating to me that you will find things that are missing from there, specifically house shows usually that went up against TV shows that same weekend, or anything that's not mentioned in the Observer at the time. But the attendance numbers coming from Polestar are very different than the attendance numbers that you might even see in the Observer, because they're coming from a slightly different source. So that's really not what the discussion here is about. This discussion is just meant for me to demonstrate how I might take a bunch of data like this, which, as you can see, is just text at this point, and then turn it into something more like a pivot table that I could then manipulate quite a lot. So I'll show you the technique that I've done in the past. I'm going to start it off by saying that I am rusty on doing this. I used to be much better at it, and I haven't done anything of this sort for some time. If you're watching along and you have questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, feel free to comment in the chat, and I will look over at my phone occasionally and see if I see that. But otherwise, I'm just going to grind on this. I'm not very good at commentating while I do something, so I will try my best to continue a conversation and say things. But there could be some long pauses if a guy just literally working on Excel. I don't know why you would watch this beyond if you yourself enjoy Excel, or are curious about how you can do something like this. Maybe it will help teach you my method. I don't think it's the best method. I think that there's some interesting things that you can do with data models or other things to make it much simpler. I'll say that just to start off. Actually, I screwed up already. Look at that. I want to label all these as matches. I want to label this, the word they use a lot on Cagematch is the word defeat. So we'll do a quick find word for finding defeat within the match title. And I still have the version on here where I still have the event names in there, so I might just make a quick list here so that you don't have to look at all the event name stuff. But of course, what's most interesting to us is make sure that we can separate the beginning and the end of the words, Big Boss Man versus Triple H, etc. So we're just going to quickly get rid of the ones that didn't work here first and see if this works better. Trying to paste values in places so that I don't bog down my machine too much. Normally it would be okay, but I think right now, because of me trying to stream and do some other things, I can imagine that it might get a little backed up. So someone asked me, where can you pull this information from Cagematch? What I literally do is I go to Cagematch, I go to each page, I highlight that page, I copy it, I paste values into the Excel. So unfortunately, as you can see here, it's 67,000 rows. That can be a time-consuming thing. What you'll see here is these are the exceptions where it doesn't say anything, and that's because this is stuff where it basically says so-and-so won a battle royal, but it doesn't say who's in there. So usually with those, I just kind of append the words won battle royal to the end of it, go and paste it back in. So now all my matches have, in some form, a way for me to delineate between what I call AA and BB. AA is the stuff that comes before that special word, like defeat. BB is the stuff that comes after that word. And of course, with BB, I'm going to truncate it past, do that again, truncate it past where we see that word defeat, or this first space, basically, after that. So it becomes like that. And ideally, I will end up with, you know, all the rows split into AAs and BBs. Yeah, I wish there was an RSS feed or something that you could like download it all from. Obviously, there's easy ways to get other feeds, or probably right scraping tools with Perl or something. I don't know anything about that stuff though. So now I've split up into AA and BB. And the first thing I'm going to want to do here is kind of split off what I call the stipulations. So stipulations will appear in AA, and those are going to be things that usually end with a either first we'll do it with the where it's a end parenthesis and a colon. And just to give you an example of what that might look like, you can see the Baywatch swimsuit triple threat tag team match special guest referee. So when it has the parenthesis and the colon, that usually means it's the special guest referee. And then we'll go to the ones that don't have both of those and just has just the colon. And usually those are going to be things that are going to be, you know, like stipulations right there. I should just go straight to Cagematch and ask them for the raw data. You know, in some ways, I kind of love the glory of doing it all DIY, like I'm some kind of wizard on it. But you know, the smarter thing to do would be actually just asking it. And I'm sure Cagematch will help us out with that kind of stuff. So now we have the stipulation broken out here, which I like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate it from the AA portion, so that I don't have to see that in there, and that AA can go back to just literally being the people that are listed in the very beginning of it. So I use the substitute function for that. I'm doing this all on a laptop, not even on a desktop, so I'm doing everything with just as many keyboard commands as I can, which I'm decent at the keyboard shortcuts here, which I'm sure are almost impossible to follow if you're just watching a feed here, because it's probably also in tiny, tiny little print. But now we've broken out the stipulation for that and that. So that's part of what I want to get rid of. The second thing I want to get rid of here is kind of the way that they sometimes list the end of things on BB. So that's oftentimes they'll say something like by. So this will also get all the bobbies because of the way I did it there. But you can see it there, like Bart Gunn by KO, that sort of thing like that. So I'm just going to do a quick search for things like by or a dash by itself. Those are the ways that it's usually delineated on here. And you can see all the countouts there. There's a lot of different ways to do this stuff. You know, every time I do it a little different, probably just because it relieves boredom to have it slightly different. I'm sure I could write a series of macros or, you know, other data filters that would do this much more efficiently than the way I do it. But you know, I kind of find it relaxing in a certain sense to sit here and just kind of process data and see things. Plus, I learn all sorts of funny German terms, like, what was that one there at the very bottom? This one, Unterschriftenschreit, which I swear that means like referee's decision or something like that. Oh, we'll have to get one of our German speakers to tell me for sure. So now I have all these results here that I can also take out of the BB section. So I'll do that, get rid of that, and you know, clean up some of the BB results. All right, so I will paste those back in, delete that. So now I've taken out some of the result type stuff. I'm also going to create a time column here where I'm going to take off anything that has time cues in it. We'll start by taking the time cues out of the result column. Just make sure I did that right. Yeah, probably add one there. And just in case there's something else after the end parenthesis that we don't want as part of the time thing, I will do that. So good example of something that doesn't need to be there and something that needs to be fixed. So we can see here this Chuck and Nunzio thing that actually should go back into this part. And this one here, double count out 1139, for some reason didn't really show up quite right. I'll just do a manual fix on it. Sometimes that's faster than me literally trying to figure out what's wrong with what's happening here. All right, so let's go back to those time cues. All right, so those are the time cues that were in the results column. So let's clean out that from the results column. And in the end, when you see what I probably do with this data, you'll be like, wow, you spent a lot of time cleaning things up that you never even used. But, you know, if I ever want to go back and use my ELO calculations or something like that, this is a chance for me to have some really, really clean data. Also, the most of the comprehensive data. I mean, nothing's ever 100% comprehensive because there's always, you know, a lot, especially the 80s results, a lot of stuff that was lost. This is going back to 1999, which I feel decent about. If you go back further than that, then you run the risk that, you know, a lot of times I would go to the history of WWE and use their results instead. All right, so let's find something that has some times in it to make sure I'm doing this calculation right. There we go. There's a match that has a time in it, and I did not. Let's do that again then. Right, the length of this, find where there's a quote, and then I usually add about 4 to it, and then I do a trim on it, and then I do a left on that, going back to the final column. I don't think I could do it all in one single function by memory. I usually have to do it kind of iteratively like that, where I do it once, and then I do it again, and then I do it again. And let's get rid of that, and we get to see there's one really crazy one there at the end, and that's, I think, a Raw versus SmackDown Lumberjack match that gets all messed up in the way I do these steps. So we're just going to literally paste this in because it's so hard to get it right normally. So, oh, uh-oh, did we freeze? No, there we go. If you have function keys, F2 is always a good way to get back into that little bar up there on the top. Pro tip. Oops, that's not right. It's not a versus. I want that no contest thing to go into the results column. And I want the time, which I somehow lost here, 1650. There we go. Looks pretty clean now. Good. All right. Next, I am going to grab the super long match. You know, the one match that went 106 minutes and 55 seconds. Just astounding. And now, with all that, I'm going to do a quick substitute on BB and make sure I get rid of all the time cues in there. Look at that match. Chris Jericho, Jerry Lawler versus Naked Midian and Taz. 3 seconds long. What a match. Okay. So we got all that done. Let's move these 3 columns before AA and BB if it doesn't crash this whole thing. Oh, let's see here. Good. So now we have all the matches. We have AA and BBs all split out. I still see some no contests in there. Probably need to do more with my dashes then. Let's find that. oops, find a dash by itself on that. There's a lot of them. About 1,000, about 900, about 800. There we go. All right, so I'll do a quick write function. I think I learned a lot of these functions originally from, programming in Apple IIe Basic, like right, left, text. Those are all text functions that you could use in Basic on an Apple, and so that helped me a lot for character delineation. I'll tell you, that's one of the best skills you can learn in business, is get really good at how you manipulate text. It will help you immensely when you're dealing with, any kind of file, any kind of business where they take functions in, take raw data feeds in from things, and you have to, sometimes there'll be, even a text file of some sort. What am I doing? I want to do a substitute here. Be a text file of some sort, and if you're able to somehow turn that into something that is well delineated, it helps a lot. I found that to be one of my best skills when I was selling myself to other businesses. All right. So, in theory, we should now have fairly clean AAs and BBs. AAs are going to be generally the people who won, sometimes with the people that they're with, and then BBs is going to be everyone else. Now, there's going to be times that we're going to have team names. There's going to be times that it's going to be so-and-so and, like a Royal Rumble, which is the real pain in the neck. And then there's going to be times where it's just lists of all the teams in there together. So we'll see how that looks in a sec. All right, so we're going to end up with about 67,000 lines times 2. So over 100,000 lines of data by the time we do this all. I'll do a quick save. All right, so now we have our data. Usually I kind of have one line here where I just kind of do it as, this is the raw data. And now I'm going to add a tab, and this is going to be for the people. And for this, I'm only going to need matches. And we're going to paste it in here. And as you can see, I have a bunch of lines that I had been hiding, which I still don't really need to be looking at. So I'm going to hide them again. That was just basically ways for me to delineate the date of the event and the type of event it was. All right, so then we have team. And then team num, team AA. And then we're going to do BB all the way down, and we're going to copy BB there. All right, so now we have our teams and our team nums, and we can see, just for cleanliness, let's do a quick trim on everything. Remember ZZ? Jeez. Talk about some unusual names that will show up when you do it this way. All right, so appreciate the couple people watching. Hope you're having a good Sunday. All right, so we've got all our data here. You'll see I do that a lot. Go to the top, go to the bottom. I'm sure it does not calculate very well when you do that. All right, so let's move this actually in front of that. All right, so what are the things that we want to kind of fix up as we do teams here? Well, usually what I do is I start with team, but then I switch it over to something I will call person. And let's start off by finding everybody who, actually, you know what? I bet you anything I missed one thing on here. I bet you there's there's a couple times where they put an extra colon, a space between the colon, and after they mention a special referee. I only knew that because I've done this before. You can see how that's truncated. That doesn't have the full special referee name. There we go. It's a good sign of, when you've done this way too many times. Let's for consistency's sake. Let's just make sure that we get that special referee tag on both versions, AA and BB's line. All right, good. They're both gone. Okay, so for person here, I'm going to start off, and I'm going to get rid of that championship code. I don't need that right now. So that already kind of makes things a little bit easier. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find all the times that there's someone listed in here that is just accompanying someone else. Oops, I forgot to put a $sign, making it absolute. You can tell I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I'm not following any kind of pattern. I'm just kind of thinking through, as I've done this time and time and time again, about kind of what are the next steps that always happen. Okay, there we go. So we have this, and this is referring to all the widths. So now we're at a interesting juncture, because I can either choose to strip off all the widths for people, or I could choose to strip out all the ands for people. And now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should do the ands first, which are, this is where a good data model is actually much better at dealing with things than this is. But, yeah, so let's do it that way. So this is all the times where the word and exists. And the problem here is we want to make sure it's the literal A and D and not with the and, like big and tasty, but like and. I should probably make sure it goes to the very bottom, first of all. And let's take out. All right, so this is all the times where it's a multi-person match. And, you know, like a three-way here, Jeff Hardy, Edge, and Triple H. Royal Rumbles are going to show up a lot this way too. So, like here, Team SmackDown versus the Nexus. So we're going to want to kind of change these literally there, but we don't want to change any team name that actually had the word and in it. So hopefully this won't have any false positives, but we don't know. I like to use the @ symbol as kind of my delineator on these sort of things. So then I can just go here, go to text to columns, do delimited, use that @ symbol, and it processes for a second. Then what I usually do is I pull this out. I'm gonna have to pull it out probably almost to 40. Jeez, look at that. Look at this. That's the that's got to be like the greatest battle royal or whatever. The 50-man battle royal. Is there 51 people in that or something? That's weird that it would have 50 people listed under BB, because that would also imply that there was actually 51 people there for Monsieur to win. Okay. Well, all right, so I got my 50 lines. This is where you can use it with a data model, and you can somehow kind of switch the columns to the rows, and it's very, very helpful. It's very, very fast. And unfortunately, I'm just rusty on it. Plus, I have to build a data model to do that. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, which is not as fast, but hopefully won't take me forever to fix. But this is sometimes the most cumbersome part of doing data. This kind of data manipulation is literally trying to get all these ands together into a single, to their own columns. So what I like to do is I do this COUNTIF of how many non-blanks there are, and basically switch it around so that you can see here, this is the match that has 50 in it, and then, you know, so forth down. And you start kind of this cumbersome, slow process of copying the data over, pasting it on the bottom, placing it in that column, deleting that column, doing the same thing again. We won't quite do this 50 times because after a little while, we'll find that there's not a lot of examples in a single row, and it's actually faster to take that individual row and just do a transpose on it. B squared there. So it's now only about 264 matches that had 8 or more, or 9 or more really, people in it. Now we're down to 187-ish. Like I said, there's a really nice way you can bring this into a model, and then you can actually do like convert columns to their individual rows and replicate things, and it's very helpful. And I learned how to do that about 2 years ago, and I have gotten so rusty in it that I haven't done it since. And so I'm a little worried about doing it on a live stream and really messing it up bad. So just can't bring myself to do it right now. So unfortunately we have to do this rather boring exercise. But once we get past about 20, it should speed up a lot, because there's really not a lot of matches in that middle range between 20 and 50. But again, we're dealing with 21 years of data, so a lot of these house shows, they did love to run these crazy battle royals. There are some other ways you can do this. I've done it with kind of doing like weird indirect functions where you kind of pull it down, or IVAR. Don't even think about what the keystrokes are after a little while. You just start doing them kind of robotically. Should be done with the Royal Rumbles pretty soon, or most of them. I guess there's the couple years, or 1 year they did the 40. This is a good example of a good juncture point. So now I still have 30 through 50 to go, but I only have 5 rows left, right? 6 rows. So I'm just going to take this 30 through 50 right there, and I'm just going to do a quick paste, transpose, and then I have that whole line, and all I have to do is copy this, go there, and that will save me having to do that 20 sometimes. And of course that's much, much faster than continuing to do it the old-fashioned way. Now, one thing that's a little different is I don't think when you go to Cagematch you get all the widths, like when it says so-and-so accompanied so-and-so for usage stats. So sometimes people that do a lot of managing but don't wrestle a lot, they get a little undercounted when you're trying to look at kind of usage stats on them. So one reason why making my own database is kind of fun. Ted DiBiase. All right, we're going to end up with a little under 144,000 rows. And one last one for Mr. Zach Ryder. All right, so now I have converted all of those matches in theory where people are separate, have their own separate teams, as such. So I'm going to actually copy this. So there, I was just doing a trim. I'm actually going to copy this over onto that team column because in theory, these are all separate teams. And I'll just do a quick sort just to double check that at the top it appears that we have teams. Yep, looks pretty good right now. All right, do a quick save. I wonder who. Oop. Do a save again, and I won't touch anything while it's doing it. All right, there we go. Good. So now here's just another thing I use sometimes is I had a random number to every line. And what this is for is that this way later when I split up teams into different people, like, you know, person A and person B, I can also combine them by looking at this random number and then saying the two people that have the same random number, they're on the same team. So now I've done that the proper way. I am going to search for anybody who seems to have somebody accompanying them. Oh, I did it. I messed up again. I forgot to do the $sign. You can start to see the same mistakes I make over and over and over again. All right. So sort there. AEW mug available on shopaew.com. All right. So now who has their own team has 185 things, and God, what match was this? This was the 10-on-3 handicap. Wow. All right. So I'm going to now move off all the with people, and I do that by so basically there we go. So that is the with people. That's the people without that with on there. So I'm going to place them there. Oops. Make sure I copy this first. All right. I'm going to replace them on there. Then I'm going to delete this. And then I'm going to take all those with people and give them their own line. So and let's just take out with as such. And then usually what I like to do is amend where it says team name with the word with. So that way, if I'm doing counts on the teams to try to make sure that the teams are evenly balanced, I can use that with thing to kind of check to make sure what's happening. All right, so I don't need that. So now let's see how many more people still have widths. It doesn't happen very much. You can see here, CM Punk had his own person, and Dolph Ziggler had his own person. And similarly, in this other match, oops, looks like Chavo had Bam Neely. Man, flash in the past name. All right. Narb. All right, it's being a little finicky, so I'll do it a little differently. Here we go. There we go. That's with Vicky. Very nice person, by the way. Really enjoyed meeting her. And that. Good. All right. So, in theory, we've got our people. We've got a lot of teams, and now I've got a couple things here where it errored out. I can see why it errored out. Was this a one-on-one match? It was. So, looks like all three people were actually part of that match. So this should just be JBL. This should just be those four people. And then the AA width on this should be all three of those people. And the BB width should be Jamie and Joey. And we'll get into the challenge in a moment here of how do I deal with team names where they use the ampersand, which is a pain, but is to be expected. Give it a quick save. All right. So far, my dogs are sleeping in the corner, have not expressed much interest in what I'm doing, so that's a good sign. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, is it working? It is working. Okay. All right, so now we have split off that. Let's just double check. Is there any other widths in here? Space widths? Anything like that? Good. Okay. So now we have teams in here and things that have ands. So this is one of the more cumbersome parts of it as well, is how do I replace those team names with those individual people names? So what we're going to do is we're going to look for things that look like they are team names. Same process as before, look for parentheses, and then make sure it only goes to the first parenthesis. And there we go. So now we have team, oops, that doesn't seem like nearly enough. Oh, did I do the thing again? I did. No, I didn't. Huh. Why am I missing so many parentheses? Teams. Yeah, there should be hundreds. Should be 16,000 lines. So let's try that formula one more time, all the way down. Maybe I just didn't copy it all the way down. Let's look to see how many we get this time. And if you're watching this and you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I can't promise that I will address it immediately because I'm on a delay and I'm also looking at just an Excel screen here on a tiny little laptop, and then, you know, keep cranking my neck over to look at my phone where I have the comments up. But there's also only 3 or 4 of you watching, so I'm not that worried about missing any big questions. All right, so I got all these team names, or members of teams, and now I need to get what the team name actually was. This really should be called team members. The team name is going to be right before you find this and that. And what I like to do with this is when there's multiple things on here, then you're going to want just the very last one of whatever that group of names was. So I'm going to, on just this team name column, switch all my commas to that @ symbol. I'm going to switch all my ands to that @ symbol. And hopefully, well, you know what? Let me do that again. I'm going to switch all my commas to that @ symbol. I'm going to switch all my space ands to that @ symbol. Technically, if it's called T and A, like that, I want it to stay as it is. I think there might be one other team that uses the and symbol in theirs, but I can't think of who that is right now. We'll figure it out later. All right, so then when I've done that, I do another delimited on that, and let's see, how long do I have to go? There's T6, but there doesn't appear to be a T7. So T6 is, in this case, I think the Bellas. So let's put the Bellas back in T1. What we want to do is we basically just want to grab whatever the very last name of these groups are. And in theory, everything should be gone down to just that. Awesome. So now we just have just that last team name out of those team names. And again, I'm sure there's some smarter ways of doing these things. These are just kind of the quick and dirty techniques I've learned. I call them quick, but obviously this is a little bit of a time-consuming thing. All right, this next part is the part that always is complicated to get right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create essentially the team name the way I think it's spelled. So, DIY with that. And here it's showing you kind of the two components. Then I'm going to create just what I want to switch it to once you've taken out those parentheses around it. Now I'm going to paste all values. And now I'm going to try the hard part, which is substitute this where you see this and put that in. So now, Bob's your uncle should all be working. All right, so I'm going to copy this back into person. I'm going to get rid of team members. I'm going to keep team name because it's kind of fun to have. And I'm going to delete these 3. So in theory, I have now translated the teams there. Problem is sometimes there's more than one team in a single line. And as you'll see, another 300 times here where, here is the Bruiserweights and TIY together. So here I have to do a very similar process again. Here, the name of the team is 3.0. And so I need to do it a little bit more careful to get that 3.0 thing going because it rounded it like it was a number. Here there's some other team names. So let's just do the same thing. So team name. We're going to do a very similar process to what we just did. If I hadn't done a paste value, I probably could have reused my formulas in some way. But that's okay. We're doing this all raw. In theory, someone with eagle eyes could follow along and do this exact same thing themselves. The team name is going to be the left of this. Oh, wait. We need to clean up these team names, don't we? All right, too much. Same thing as before. Paste the values. Switch anywhere where there's that symbol. Switch anywhere that there's a comma. And do a quick text to columns with it. All right, so we see one example here where the name was all the way out in the 8th position. See one here. Got 3 actually in the 7th position. See 3 in the 6th position. See about 15 in the 5th position. See about 40 in the 4th position. See 191 in the 3rd position. Oh goodness, and this is reminding me of something I totally forgot to deal with, the verses. Oh gosh, we're gonna have to go back and fix some stuff in a second. All right, let's fix those 3.0s this time so they actually get done. And then we're probably gonna have to go back into this and manually fix any of the lines that have verses in them. So, yeah. We're gonna have to do another pass on all the verses later on because I neglected to do those when I did those ands at the very beginning. I should have done verses as well. Excellent. Okay. Now, sometimes team names is not even a team, it's just actually an alternative identity for someone. So like in that case, Nat Hardy was not really named Nat Hardy, and they're telling you who it really was. All right, so this is again team name, and then we'll do our tests. So this team name should be look like that. Oh, that's not right. Let's try that again. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. I got to make sure that this doesn't go past that team name. That's much, much better. All right, now we do the simple thing. We substitute this. When you see that, I want you to instead substitute in for the name of someone, the members of that team. Now then, let's see if anyone besides 3.0 showed up more than once for any reason. Nope, just looks like 3.0 was the only one that showed up more than once. So, not sure exactly how we want to kind of deal with the fact that some of these have 2 team names in them. I think we can just, for now, do that. Yep, okay. And we'll do that. All right, good. Do another quick save just in case something crashes here. Probably won't. Cross our fingers. I wonder how long I've been doing this. in terms of how close I am to, you know, can I get this done in 2 hours? Is it 1.5 hours? How long does it take me to do one of these? All right. Now let's look for anyone else where there's more team names. Oh, there's still 39 of them. Oh, kills me every time. I always think I'm going to be done. So you'll see a couple at the bottom here are going to need to be manually fixed. But luckily, these are actually the easiest ones to do. And my dog is getting upset, so... Oh, only 15 minutes. Wow. I'm moving a little faster than I thought I might be. That's good. All right, so... Oops. There we go. And... No, I'm not sure why that didn't work. All right, let's just do it a dirty way. As you can see, I often will accomplish the same goal 3 different ways. So here I'm just going to use the substitute function a whole bunch. One of my favorite functions I learned about. All right, paste those back in there. That should be all better. And let's do a quick trim on everything just to make sure that we don't have any leading spaces for no reason. No, why in the world is it doing that? There we go. All right. So back to the original goal, which was parentheses. Yeah, I probably was making a lot more mistakes the last time I did this. It's all a function of A, the keyboard, and B, how clean I can remember the stuff, and C, you know, here's a good example of one where they did it really weird. The club didn't really get its own breakout. Wow, look at the name of this team. 4 different named teams all in there. That's amazing. You rarely see that. Just kind of going through one by one here, trying to double check that there's no other, besides that versus issue, which I'm going to deal with in a moment, that there's no other big alignment issues with the parentheses. I know that there's a Bradshaw one somewhere that's all wrong, but we'll figure that out. Looking pretty clean. Oh, this one might. That looks okay, I guess. All right. Now, this is always the question of which is faster for me. I think it's actually just going to be faster for me to just manually edit these here. Lucha Dragons and Primetime Players. And I don't really care about the names of the Hardys on that one. I'm just going to take it off altogether. Author's a pain. Here we have the vaudevillians. Who kept winning that match? Looks like American Alpha, Hype Bros, and Usos. And then another time, a real motley crew of Swagger, Slater, Raleigh, Rhino, and the Usos. Interesting. Here we have the Lucha House Party and the Revival. I'm probably going to have to redo that line. I'm going to have to do that line again. I'm going to have to do that line again. I might just completely not do those right now. Spirit Squad. And Vaudevillians. Since they're always alphabetized, you end up with a lot of Vaudevillians at the end here. You know, it's going to be a function of which teams have to fall the latest in the alphabet. Oops. Oops. American Alpha and the Usos. Here, the Wyatt family. Big family this time. The Club and the Shining Stars. Both teams recently eliminated from WWE. Back to my vaudevillian friends. And lastly, the Riot Squad. All right, let's see. If I did this right, ideally, we should have no more people with parentheses. Except for these versus ones that I'm going to have to fix anyways. And let's just look for anyone who has just that parentheses. Yeah. I've already fixed it on that. Kishi Fatu. And that's the thing, is you always have to do some manual cleanup. Almost never is it so clean that you're all good. All right. So that's looking decent right now. So now I have to find the unfortunate examples where I forgot to deal with this, which is these are multiple person matches that are versus each other. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with these on a separate tab, and then I'm going to go back and paste them back in. Okay, let's find the best way to find them again with all the columns unhidden. All right, I want things where in BB there's a versus in there. There we go. That's all of them. And then I'm going to actually delete them out of here. And I'm going to resort. So now we're north of 156,000 lines. All right, let's hide all the lines I don't really need right now. Cool. So now let's fix these lines that are bad. So I'm going to just literally start from the beginning on this, and it shouldn't take me more than 2 or 3 minutes to get this back to the way it's supposed to be. So the first thing I'm going to do is have all my lines. Yeah, there's only about 38 of these examples. All right. So what do I need to do? First thing I need to do is team number. Do team AA for everything, and we will keep that the way it is. We'll give them all a new random number, and we will copy them over like that. Paste, and we'll kill that. Thing. Now I need to copy all these lines. Create team BB, copy BB over twice, and give them a new random number. All right, now then, now I need to find all the cases where there's a versus in there. Should hopefully be no one with a team name here, right? Oh, there is some team names in there. That's fine, I don't need those right now. Yeah, because I want the originals. Okay, so now I'm going to do a quick delimited. And I'm going to see that there's this one match that has at least 7 teams, 8 teams. Is this because it's a battle royal that, yeah, I think it's a stupid battle royal that like somehow got declared a no contest, so they're all versus. Yeah. Ooh, gah. All right. Let's deal with this match by itself first. All right. Paste, transpose. Excellent. Yeah, I think the most is then this match here with 7 people, 7 other teams involved, or people involved, which will do the same thing too. Once we're done with this, we'll assign everybody a new number as well. All right. What about who has 6? This has 6. Okay, who has 5? Show me 5. All right. Now we'll just do this the old-fashioned way. All of you get your own line. Done. All of you Get your own line. Done. Henson. My dog is trying to chew on a cord over there. My dog's name is Henson. He thinks I don't see him, but I do. Nope. I'm gonna have to get up and stop him. All right. And let's copy all these over to their own teams. And save the values. All right. We're almost back to start, right? Now we just need to get that word team in there, and we need to find how many people actually have teams. There we go. Luckily, all these teams are pretty darn clean, with the exception of the width. So we'll do it once this way, and then we'll fix it. These 3 people do the thing I just did. There we go. Okay, now we'll deal with these teams here. Basically, that's the team. Something I always hate when I do. Go to the very bottom and paste something. It screws everything up. All right, there we go. Put that there, put that there. That's got the team name. And then we just have to deal with the fact that I think there's still one more width on here that I had missed the first time around. Yep, Eric Young. Okay, let's unhide. Let's find that missing line. There we go. Let's copy that down, and let's fix that. Eric Young. Let's see, is he listed as part of Sanity? He's not technically listed. I know he is, but it's just for consistency's sake. Leave it out. All right. Okay, so I have fixed that, and now these lines here can be reappended to these lines there. And I can delete this extra thing. And we've undone our mistake. I think that was a little more than 5 minutes, but not a ton more. Okay, I'll save, as we always do. Now, in theory, we are almost at the finish line. Well, a finish line, I should say. So what we have here is a version of a team name, right? But what we still have to do is convert this all into people. So, last step here is just literally Change anywhere there's an and to be a that. 44,000. Change anywhere there's a comma to that. 7,000. And I love to kind of truncate things down a little bit. And in theory, if I do a quick delineation again, how many people do we think there is? Now we got teams of 8, we got teams of 9, teams of 10, teams of 11, teams of 12, teams of 13, teams of 14, teams of 15, teams of 16, teams of 17. Looks like 16 might be our limit. All right. All right, we're nearing the finish line here. A little over, probably hour and a half, maybe even less. All right, and this shows me how many people were on each team. This is kind of interesting in itself as a fact, right? And now we're going to give each one of them their own line. Match with Negro Casas. Huh. It's been from Los Super Astros. Now, of course, when we're done with this, we'll have an individual line for every person, but what we won't have is, in fact, an individual, the names all consolidated. So that's the part that actually takes oftentimes much longer, is sitting there and kind of rooting through names and getting all the spelling changes and all the other little changes done. But we can look at a couple facts really quickly on a pivot once we're done with this, and then I will probably have to take a break because I've been talking here for probably an hour, and I'm also thirsty. But, it goes to prove how much you can get done if you just literally sit down, concentrate on it, and then, commentating on it actually doesn't hurt always, because you do sort of focus on what you're trying to do and explain it out loud, and it makes it easier for you to remember the process. Oh, we're getting so close here, folks. Can you feel it? Are you excited like I am? A good example there, Robbie. There's going to be Robbie, and there's going to be Rory, and then there's going to be Robbie McAllister and Rory McAllister. Tell you, this exercise always is really phenomenal for me to kind of learn, some of the name changes that people did. A lot of times you forget that things switched. Snitsky was Gene Snitsky and Snitsky, and then, anything else that might come up. Also fun to sometimes see, versions of names from years past. Obviously, when you're doing it with the 80s results, Mike Rotunda has quite his share of different spellings and names, especially when you're using the best of or history of WWE results. Okay, unfortunately I can't think of a quick and easy way for me to combine, lines here, and I guess I could combine, in theory I could do the random number with the team number appended in, well, no, I wouldn't even have to do that because random number should be different between the teams. And then if I do a VLOOKUP on that same thing here. In theory, that should work. So this here and this are pretty much identical, if I'm not mistaken, right? Does that equal that? Is that true for everybody? No. So what's different here? Is that, oh, this is with the teams in there, and this is just, so this is team with team names, and this is team without team names. And then this is what that team name was. And then this is the individual person. Okay, good. Seems like there's a value to all those fields. And we're done. So in theory, I save this, 207,000 lines now. That's just for 20 years. You can imagine if you go back even further into the 80s, how much higher that is. And so I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it into a pivot table. And let's see, individual person count. So again, this is going to be before we normalize for names, and we also deal with, other issues that come up. But, already, what do we see? Kane is number 1. 2,501 times his name shows up just as straight up Kane. Now, there's 1 or 2 examples in here that, are going to be false positives, like Kane versus Kane, I think is in here. And I can already see that I forgot to take care of some of these bracket people. So I will deal with bracket people in a second. So the other factor I always kind of love is, what is the number? I apologize for keep touching my face. Is kind of what is the number, when I look at this here of individual names that we start off with, and then how can I get that number down? So let's just start off by something simple like, please find all the examples of brackets. Oops. And let's get rid of those. There we go. So you can see there's a lot of bracket things for me to fix here. A lot of matches here that had interesting things. So I'm going to take out all the brackets for either points or for wins. Save that. Put that back in. Then when I see some other things going on, some of these are interesting steps that I actually probably want to keep in my step column. So anywhere it's just replacement for so-and-so, I don't care about that. Placer for Shooter Schultz. Look at that. That's an interesting one. I'm curious, how many of these have something already in the stip column? Oh, all of them. Okay. In that case, I don't care enough. Let's just get rid of them altogether. There we go. Let's do a quick clean on everything, just in case something else came up. And you might see my dog here in a second. There's Henson behind. Hey, Henson, look at everybody. Say hi. Henson is now attacking me, meaning it might be time for me to end this. What a way to end. Let's refresh our pivot here, just kind of see how much we saved by doing that. Should probably take off a couple hundred, right? Looks like we're down to about 2,500 people. So I'm going to stop at this point and save here, let my dog out, do some other things, and we'll have that here. And if anyone really wants, I can post the data set online. So all the best to you. Support WrestleNomics by going to WrestleNomics.com, listening to Brandon's podcasts, and support your independent pro wrestling companies. They're awesome. And whenever you have a chance, watch wrestling on television. It's cool. Talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.